What does it feel like when the first quarter at your dream school turns into a nightmare? So in March of this year, I was accepted to my dream college, UCLA, where I had been wanting to go for years, and it was all like, yay, like I did it. To the me from March of this year, honey, you've got a big storm coming. I knew college wasn't going to be easy, and I think to an extent, I definitely mentally prepared myself for it, but I still was not prepared for just how tough it became, and I don't think I expected it to be as rough as it ended up being. Now, despite the dramatic title, this video isn't supposed to be a depressing video or a rant video or anything like that, but I think online, we're so used to putting out this perfectly curated image of ourselves and this misguided attempt to convince other people that our lives are somehow perfect. And in reality, all of us are going through our own things. I think it's refreshing to be able to see different perspectives other than just perfection online. So here is a vulnerable account of my first quarter of college and all the struggles I went through, as well as, more importantly, the valuable lessons that I learned from those struggles. So first up, academics. Classes were really tough for me this quarter due to a variety of reasons, ranging from outdated study habits, like I used to procrastinate a lot in high school, to just intense workload in general, as well as just the whole strange process of transitioning to college while also being online. I definitely had the most breakdowns this quarter that I've had in a long time. That's always fun. You know, I'd study for hours and hours and still bomb a quiz, whereas I'd see my peers, some of them would just do amazing without spending as much time studying as me. I'd be happy to score a 91 on a project only to see the median score was a 98. You know, self-comparison is a really easy trap to fall into, and I slid right in. And it sounds pretentious, but I am used to getting straight A's in high school. And in contrast, this quarter I actually had to switch one of my classes to pass/no pass grading, just because if I kept it as a letter grade, then the hit to my GPA would be too bad. Suddenly, instead of stressing about the difference between an A- and an A, I was out here calculating my grades thinking like, am I even gonna pass this class? So thankfully my GPA this quarter ended up actually being pretty good, but I think still just going from school is not that bad to, oh my god, I feel like I'm failing, I feel like I'm not doing as well as anyone else in my class. It was definitely a rough transition for me emotionally, and speaking of emotions, I was an absolute emotional wreck this quarter. Like, there's no shame in admitting it. I was just an entire train wreck. I cried so much this quarter. I've struggled with imposter syndrome forever, pretty much, even in high school, and it definitely continued to haunt me this quarter. Coming in as a computer science major with relatively little experience outside of just high school clubs and classes, I felt really incompetent against people in my classes who have, I don't even know, been like coding since they were in the womb or something. I used to pride myself a lot on my academics. All of a sudden coming into UCLA, it's like, whoa, every single person here is so smart and so accomplished. You know, it's hard at times to feel like you measure up. Seeing people who are the same age as you, who go to the same school as you, who are doing the things that you wish you could be doing, it's intimidating. But one big thing that I think has shifted in me throughout the course of this quarter is that I've learned to put a lot less emphasis and correlation between my achievements and my grades or whatever with my self-worth. In the past, I always had this misguided idea of tying my self-worth to my achievements because, you know, I thought I was hot shit for the things I had achieved, and I guess I relied on that as a measure of my self-worth, probably to fill some sort of deeper insecurity within me, and that's not healthy at all. As counterintuitive as it seems, me not doing so great this quarter and me going through all these like failures actually helped me just distance myself from that toxic mentality. I'm not any more or less worthy as a person just because of my performance in one class or my achievement one time or something. You know, that inherently just has nothing to do with my value as a person. And looking back, it's stupid to even put those two things together. If I didn't do well in a class, it doesn't mean that I'm a stupid person. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable. It just means that I have to find better study habits, or I need to figure out what went wrong so that I can put in more effort or more efficient studying. And just recently in general, I think I'm just maturing and I don't feel like I need validation from outside sources as much anymore. So I guess in general, I've just learned to be a lot less fazed by failure and to cut it out on the elitism that I used to turn to because it's just stupid. And there's also the whole thing about uncertainty about my future, which is something that has been an emotional struggle for me this quarter. I have a lot of goals for the future. Sometimes I question if I'm in the right major for me to best achieve those dreams. I've definitely had some existential crises about my career plans in general, but I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is that I'm just a freshman and I have so much time to figure it out, and I don't need to know everything 100% for sure right now, because I don't think anyone really knows 100% what they're doing all the time. But since this is a recap video of my whole first quarter, I guess it wouldn't be complete without talking about some positives, and one of the highlights of this quarter has to be my social aspect. I think every college freshman worries to some extent about making friends, but for us this year it was even weirder because we had to make friends and meet new people all while sitting in our rooms from online. I stayed at home this quarter, I wasn't on campus, so it was definitely a strange experience. I'm pretty shy. I'm the type of person who doesn't go out of her way to really take initiative in social situations, and I think at the start of this quarter I told myself, you know what, you have to take initiative because there's no other way this is really going to happen. I forced myself to talk to a lot of people, message random people in my classes and just say hi, make small talk. Really try my best to go to social events that clubs and other groups were putting together, and I think it's really paid off. I've genuinely made a lot of great bonds with people this quarter. You know, I'm excited to meet these people eventually in person. Friendships are like a huge part of what has kept me going through this quarter, even though it was really tough in pretty much every other aspect. So mistakes I've learned from. First of all, I applied for a ton of extracurriculars and positions in clubs, and I actually got accepted to most of the things I applied to, which was really exciting at first. I was like, wow, I'm doing so well, except for the fact that it was way too much. I already had planned out like, okay, we're not going to take on too much, but I think my overambitious self was just interested in so many things, and I still ended up biting off more than I could chew, and I definitely paid the price for it. I got to the point where I just had no time to do anything pretty much, and it was just meeting after meeting after meeting. I started sleeping at really ungodly hours of the night. 4 a.m. became a normal bedtime for me, which is really concerning. I haven't had this bad of a sleep schedule since probably junior year, which was, we don't talk about junior year. And I guess the reason I never bothered to do anything about my procrastination in high school was just because I always got away with it. I always managed to pull off good grades, even though my study habits were far from good. That just kind of made me feel like, okay, it's okay to keep going like this. But college was not so kind, and this quarter has definitely shown me that my study habits and my time management skills are not working, so it's time to take initiative to change that. So I'm planning to go into winter quarter with a different mindset. Another mistake I've learned from is trying to keep everything bottled up inside and not ever opening up to people. Sometimes it's hard for me to really open up to someone because a lot of times I feel like I'm bothering someone else when I do that, and I don't want to burden other people with my problems. So I went through a lot of this quarter just alone in my head. I was really stressed, but I never really talked about it that much to people until it came up, and you know, talking to my friends, they're like, we're here for you. And ever since I've started opening up and just reaching out for help when I need it, it's become a lot better. Reach out for help when you need it. You're never as annoying as you think you are, and you don't know how much it can help you. And some lessons in general. First of all, I've learned to be a lot kinder to myself recently. As someone who's really ambitious and also kind of a perfectionist, I beat myself up a lot for my mistakes. Even if it's just one small minor error, I get really upset with myself. But I think this quarter has really helped me to see myself a little bit in a broader context. I've already come so far, and past me would be really proud to see where I am today. That's something important to recognize. Me from 1 year ago would have done anything to get into UCLA, and look where I am now. It's all about perspective. We can get caught up in working towards the next goal so much, but it's also important to take a step back every so often and just recognize how far you have already come. It's good to be ambitious, but don't burn yourself out in the process of doing so. And I've also learned to go out of my comfort zone a lot more. What's the worst that could happen? This is something that I've already been doing for a long time, just pushing myself out of my comfort zone, but I think this quarter has just shown me the importance of it even more. When acapella auditions came around, I was terrified, but I ended up convincing myself to just audition anyway, and sure, I got rejected, but I was really proud of myself for putting myself out there because there's no way I would have done that in the past. Character development. Again, I've learned not to take rejection as a measure of my self-worth. It just means that I wasn't good enough this time, but I just have to keep putting in the work and effort and get better. I applied for a software dev position thinking full well that I was not going to get accepted, and for some reason I actually got in. You see, it never hurts to try. And finally, I think I've gained more confidence lately. I think I've realized that I'm so much more capable than I've given myself credit for in the past, and I've started to move out of that cycle of self-hate and beating myself up for everything, and I'm starting to realize I am capable and worthy of a lot more than I thought I was. So there you have it. Fall quarter of college was definitely far from a breeze, and I'm glad it's over, but I think the struggles along the way have taught me a lot of important lessons, and for that I'm grateful that I went through everything because I came out of it a little bit wiser. So here's to a better winter quarter.